Today's chart is Butterfly Twist and 11 in the ECFA 2021 DLC. I think this chart has been brought up enough that it deserves a video on my other channel, so if you want to see a video of me playing a full run of this, I'll leave a link in the description. That said, we're just going to get into it. Shoutouts to McGB. I did purposely pick a video of this where I made some misses and also, flubbed some tech and didn't do as intended. I think it's just a good showcase to know that realistically you might not end up doing all the tech, and also gives me a chance to analyze some of my mistakes. At the start of this chart, there are some easy crossovers that I opt not to do. I just double step him. This opening swing here, I notice is in kind of groups of two. I see a wide grouping here and then a tight grouping here, and it kind of alternates between those two. What I noticed when I played this is that this wide grouping is wider than I thought, and this tight group is tighter than I thought. So when it comes to this first grouping, I just really think about opening up that rhythm a lot more and letting it breathe and giving it a lot of space. And then the second grouping, I really tighten up. It's almost more slam-like. Yeah, just really let that breathe. And then here are the butterfly twists. They are foot switches into crossovers. They are resolved with foot switches. And my advice for doing this is turn fast, exaggerate your turn more than you think you need to, and get off the panel as fast as you can, just to get to the next pattern and also to resolve those foot switches to make sure you don't get drops notes. So let's just evaluate kind of how I execute the first one, because I think this is one of the best ones I found in kind of like explaining this concept. So the biggest thing for me is, turn fast and turn more than you think. And the reason is because this particular type of crossover is more unique in the way of how my feet end up in the way of each other. Because with a foot switch, your foot ends up on the same note, whether it's a down arrow or an up arrow. And in this case, looking at this pattern, so this is a left foot switch. My right foot is going to go from the up arrow. I'm going to point at the pad here. I don't have my drawing tablet set up, I'm sorry. I'm going to go from the right arrow to the left arrow with my right foot. So let's get to the position where my right foot is on the up arrow here. My right foot needs to pass from the up arrow to the left arrow, but notice how my left foot is actually completely in the way. If I turn fast and exaggerate the turn as well, then it creates space for my right foot to pass over without any sort of obstruction from my left foot. So notice that when my left foot comes down to the down arrow, the way I'm coming down, I'm actually turning as well. And what this does is when I hit the down arrow, it's not facing forward like I'm used to with a normal step. It's actually being executed facing a completely different direction. And now, if you notice, my right foot now has a completely open passageway to get from the up arrow to the left arrow without any sort of obstruction. And then as far as getting off the panel as fast as I can, this is the same thing I say in every single foot switch video. I've said this in Beyond the Power. I've said this in Harpoon. I've said this in Travel to Future Medium. Just get off the panel as fast as you can. That way you can not only move on to the next pattern, but also that way this down arrow doesn't drop, because my left foot is on it first. I just need to, you can see my left foot getting off here. You just need to make sure that your first foot gets off, so that way it's not already held down when the second foot comes through. Because, if a button is held down, you can't press it again until it's released. So just make sure to move fast through these patterns to make sure those patterns release. That's probably more detail than anybody needs to know about how to execute the butterfly twists, quote unquote. But I really do firmly believe that you can play things slowly, learn how to play things fast. You play things fast to get good at, solidifying playing it fast. But, only by going this slow do I get a really good chance to critically analyze what's going on. So as far as like the first mistake I made, is it here? It's in the next batch here. Like I said, release off the panel as fast as you can. The mistake I made is that I dropped the second note of this foot switch, and that's because I stayed stuck onto the first note for too long. This is on the right foot. You can see that my right foot, when it hits this down arrow, it's actually pretty deep on this panel. I'm used to hitting the down arrow with just my heels, but man, like my whole foot is almost on this panel. And so as a result of this, I get punished for it. When my other foot comes in, my right foot hasn't fully released by the time that this second down arrow has come up, so now it causes it to miss. Also, I have no idea why the right arrow lane flashes. I don't think I missed a right arrow. I think I just missed the down arrow, but yeah, definitely think about releasing as fast as possible. And then there are a couple other butterfly twists that happen, more down arrows that I miss, so I really need to, exaggerate that release a lot more. Releasing early is how you avoid dropping foot switches. I get a nice break here. This next section has like these step taps that it's supposed to be like hold, tap, hold, crossover tap, hold, tap, hold, crossover tap, and kind of like alternate between tap, crossover. But I just do like this weird double step thing. Like a hold switch thing. Buck up. That is an option too. If you just really hate doing crossovers that much, you can do what I do. 1, 2, buck up, suck up. There are side switches here that I opt to just double step. And some crossovers as well. I just double step the whole thing. The mines are pretty out of the way. And even if they are in the way, they can just be easily avoided by keeping your heel planted on the center panel and then just lifting your foot from the toes away from the panel. There are some takes of this. When I was recording this video, there are some takes where I tried to do the side switches as intended, and they were just not worth the effort for how much I was messing them up. So now I just double step them. Some 8th note build up here. And then we actually get 4 sets of isolated foot switches. Same lesson as in the beginning. And also in the other videos that I mentioned it, with anything with foot switches, but just get off of that note as fast as you can. Like, I know it's a little bit weird because they are groups of 2 rather than, the usual like suck it with the foot switch between that we all know and love. But yeah, just get off the panel as fast as you can, no matter how many there are. I actually nailed them that time, which is a miracle for me. So this section has crossovers into foot switches. And I mitigate the situation altogether. I don't like doing these. Let me get back to that section. So what this should be is this is hit with your right foot. This right arrow is hit with your right foot, and then this left arrow is supposed to be hit crossed over or crossed under. And then what you do is, since this foot's crossed under with the right foot, then when this up arrow foot switch comes up, your left foot is already ready to go because you're doing the crossovers. What I decide to do is I triple step my way through it. So when it comes to this pattern, my right foot hits this right arrow, as expected. But then what I do is I hit both of these next 2 arrows with my left foot. That way, the triple step is actually the start of the foot switch. So all 3 of these arrows that are on screen right now are hit with the same foot. And you notice my foot here, if I step through the frames. My right foot stays planted the whole time, and it's my left foot doing all the work, and then my right foot doesn't budge until that foot switch comes up. And then when the same pattern shows up again later, then I do the same thing. There is this section here. I have no idea what I'm doing. I think the way that this is set up is that the holds are supposed to be done like a certain way, and then all the taps are kind of like done crossed over. So your taps are kind of like pivoting you around and revolving around the foot that's held. I have no idea what I did. I can't explain to you what I did. And it looks like a mess, but I think there's a good lesson here in staying composed. Something that I thought about even while panicking through this section is that, I can still read the rhythms. I'm just going to make sure to still keep driving eighth notes because I know confidently that's what the rhythm is. Bum, 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 bum. And if I'm going to panic, I should at least panic in time. Because then whatever I decide to do is going to get me the correct judgment. And then I don't know if there are any mines. Are there mines here? There are some mines there. So at worst I hit a mine, but otherwise I think I hit all fantastics on this. Yeah, it still worked out. So I guess that's my lesson there. If you panic in time. I missed an up arrow foot switch there. There were some other like full laterals or like other crossover opportunities, but still, just because those rhythms were so slow, I just opt to double step them. And then the butterfly twists happen again. I would say this hold here that comes up. Let's take a look. When this hold comes up, don't be fooled. Because when you hit this hold, there is still the next pattern starting on a right foot. If you hit this as a bracket, well, whether you hit this as a bracket or a jump, your right foot's going to be occupied holding down this panel. But you want to make sure to give yourself ample time to hit this rhythm right, which requires you to hit this, hold, and then lift before you hit this next right arrow. Don't feel obligated to hold onto this hold for the entire duration. There is some hold leniency, so it's okay to release off of this hold a little earlier than you think, just so you can start the next pattern. I think I cut it close, but I do try to get off slightly earlier. Some foot switches here. The 3-note foot switches again. And then I just completely do that butterfly twist wrong. I think I ended up doing it as this should start on your left foot. If you actually watch, I start this pattern with my right foot, and so that's actually kind of crazy because even with the right foot, this pattern resolved. The first 4 notes resolves pretty well, and it only becomes an issue if you try to do this down down left foot switch pattern. If you try to do this on the right foot first, it becomes a problem. But then I just kind of double step. I do right left, and then my left foot goes from the down arrow to the left arrow as a double step. So it's a little bit messed up, but it worked out in the end. And I think at that point I panicked and immediately realized that I made a mistake. So that way when the next butterfly twist comes up, I'm ready to go. And I actually do it as intended with the turn and the foot switch to resolve. But man, like if you miss a movement, just relax. The rest of the chart is just holds. Hey man, I'm pretty happy with 2 excellents and 3 misses. They were clean misses. Not happy with that last note. Last note was not good. Quarter notes are too hard. You heard the guy. Quarter notes are too hard. It really should have been 2 excellents, but if that weird like hold thing that I messed up, and then also the butterfly twist at the end that I started on the wrong foot. Dude, if you miss a movement, just relax. Like, there's no right way to do things. You can do whatever you want. I remember just like from so many years of doing marching band, it's like, dude, when a judge is on the field and they're rating your show, watching you perform your music, you know, from in front of you doing whatever, if you mess something up, it's not like the judge knows your music front to back. You know, they're hearing it for the first time. If you make a mistake, just act like you didn't do anything wrong and just keep going because yeah, you know, just stay composed. In this chart, even if the tech is telling you to do something a certain way, if you decide to do it some other way and it gets you the judgment you want, like who cares? Just do that. Uh my other big takeaways are, I guess, you know, let your 16th notes breathe. Let there be space. Open up the rhythmic space for better rhythmic interpretation, but also give yourself more time to get off the arrow, to turn wider, to turn faster, and especially to get off the foot switches. Yeah, and it's like, yeah, on those cramped turns, try your best to give your feet some room to move. Rotate your body and also pivot your feet in a way that lets the other foot pass through. All in all, I guess this chart is about creating space for yourself, both in time and with your body. And also a lesson, I guess, from how I was executing it is stay cool, and there's no one right way to do things, and don't be afraid to improvise if things go bad. So, you know, if this advice helps at all, please leave a comment. Other than that, thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys next time.